You're listening to the On the Mic podcast. My name is Marie and I'm with the Radio Fam.
Do you want to introduce yourself to everyone who is watching this?
My name is Marie and I'm the owner of the Radio Fam.
Okay. Let's jump into the first one. It is, what is the Radio Fam?
It's kind of evolved, but it is a network of radio people that I uplift and showcase and elevate and share kind of their talents. That way they can kind of help each other. You know, for example, Chris Cruz is somebody that does a home studio series. So since he has a YouTube series about it and is just kind of a pro at that, you know, I'm going to share his YouTube series for other radio people to be like, oh, you know, I want to do my home studio like that.
Yeah.
And it's also now, over the last year, I turned it into an e-commerce store, so you can come buy like fun radio gifts at theradiofam.com.
That's good. The second one is, how did the Radio Fam come to be?
It started because I worked in radio in Denver, and so I was running our Instagram account. So I was building the Instagram account through the radio station and was really kind of learning how to connect with an audience there. And it was really cool. I was learning a lot. Then I had other people at the station like telling me what to do, you know, like telling me to delete posts that they thought were inappropriate and whatever. And I just didn't like people telling me what to do, you know, because it was just like, I felt like I was good at it. So I ran the account for a little while and then I got rid of it. And I started a bunch of different random Instagram accounts, like random meme accounts and like some other projects, but none of them really took off. So in 2017, I was like, maybe I should do something radio related, you know, because I love radio. So why wouldn't I just take that and see if I could create something out of it? So I was like, I wanted to start an Instagram account. So I decided to start one to see that if I grow it enough that maybe I can monetize some of the posts, you know, like somebody would just pay to sponsor a post and hopefully radio stations will copy me and I can show them that like I can sponsor a post, you know, and then it just kind of has grown into something much bigger. But
good. I like that. Is it important to go to college to get into the radio industry? Do you think that's important?
I don't think so. You know, what I have learned is by working in other industries that, you know, sometimes if you have like a bachelor's degree or whatever, that you can get paid more in certain places. I don't know if it works that way in radio, but you definitely don't need a degree to get a job. I have my associate's degree just because, but like my associate's degree has nothing to do with communications or broadcasting or anything like that. So I got my foot in the door. But I was also promotion. So
that's cool. Do you think it is important to have some experience? Like if you want to get into radio, do you think that's important to have like some experience, like maybe like doing like an internet station or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, it certainly helps, you know, if you go and you're trying to get a job and you don't know how to do any of that stuff. Yeah. And, you know, that's the great thing now about the internet. You know, you don't have to necessarily go to a broadcasting school to learn how to use equipment or stuff like that. You know, you can find a lot of that on YouTube. You know, it's amazing what we can just learn on the internet. So so experience is better. I had an intern John on my podcast, and what I thought was really cool about him is that he wanted, you know, morning show host experience. So since he wasn't getting that anywhere, and neither was his podcast host Shelby Sauce or his co-host, so they, you know, he put a podcast together and then use that to practice to be a morning show host. You know, now he's on like a huge morning show now. And, you know, she works out of Atlanta now, you know, and so she wasn't able to get experience, but she was able to, they were able to do that on the podcast. And then, and I think that there's another 2 women morning show. I think Gray and Green are out of, in Michigan. I believe that their story also is that they were radio people that then were off the air, started a podcast together, and they're best friends. And then the podcast was good. So then they got a morning show from it. So it definitely helps.
Yeah. Do you think it's important to intern?
It's good if you can, you know what I mean? It's not necessarily needed, you know, it does get you in the door, and there's not really a lot of internships available now. In general, I would say to people, if you had the choice, like to get a job at the radio station, that's if you can, that's like a foot in the door type job, whether that's like a front desk, a sales assistant, promotions assistant is a big one. You definitely don't need to do it. I always say though, I think internships though are great, like especially in like places outside of radio. If you're like offered one, I say like definitely take it. I wish I would have
Yeah.
taken more internships when I was younger because it's direct job experience.
Hmm.
And then you're not committed. So
Yeah.
maybe you hate it there. You're like, this place kind of sucks, you know, and you're like,
Hmm.
oh yeah, the internship's over, I'm done. Or, you know, they like you and you like them and you were able to give your, you know, a great first impression or something like that. And then now you got
Hmm.
an easy job, you know, they want to hire you because you're already there. So definitely
Hmm.
think you should take advantage of internships should you get them, but you definitely don't need them to get a radio job.
Yeah, that's good. I like that. Is an on-air check important? Do you think that's important?
Yeah, I mean, definitely if you're getting an on-air job, I definitely think now there's more to it than just an air check, you know, just an air check and a resume. I think that there should be some sort of digital presence, whether that's, you know,
Mhm.
good social media or
Yeah.
a podcast, a website, a
Mhm.
blog. Yeah. So
That's good.
yeah.
And then for anyone who is interested in working in the radio industry, what position do you recommend like they should start off in?
Like it depends where they want to go, but you know,
Mhm.
I feel like most people want, you know, an on-air job. So I usually the best one to get into is a promotions assistant because they're
Yeah.
usually always hiring.
Mhm.
You know, it's usually like a part-time job, so you don't have to like worry about that. But it's nice because it then like puts you like you're directly meeting like
Yeah.
the jocks or like the salespeople or sometimes
Mhm.
people in management. So that's sometimes a good way to, you know, schmooze and get to know people. I
Yeah.
think, yeah, there's Basef out of Cube 93 in Seattle. She was on my podcast as well. She
Hmm.
was somebody that was a promotions person and wanted to get on the air at Cube. And, you know, so she just made it a point to like on the weekends or whatever, like the PD was in his office. So she went and introduced herself and
Mhm.
all that and was like, you know, told him that she eventually wanted to get on the air. And now
Yeah.
she's their like full-time night person and like their digital content person. So
Wow.
yeah.
That's cool. What do you love about the radio industry?
Oh my gosh, everything. It's when I started, I feel like I loved it
Mhm.
for music. Now I don't really know. It all just kind of like
Hmm.
sucks us all in. um,
Yeah.
I think I just like the community, probably
Mhm.
mostly the community of like misfits. I guess I feel
Yeah.
like a lot of radio people are just kind of like the random
Mhm.
nerds that didn't really fit in high school. And for
Yeah.
some reason, radio is a place that like scoops us all up.
Mhm.
And so I had always felt like, so when I was in Colorado Springs, I met like a radio family and my, you know, you kind of had
Mhm.
a little, and that doesn't always happen everywhere, depending what market you're
Mhm.
in. So just because you work in New York doesn't mean it's going to be a great time and everybody's
Yeah.
so awesome. You know, it's really just,
Mhm.
one of my old bosses said it all depends on your situation.
Yeah.
So that situation was really great. And I felt like I had a family, you know, like a little family. And then I came up to Denver and it
Mhm.
was not like that in radio at all, you know? So I was like, oh my gosh. And I was like kind of really depressed and thinking that that's just what the industry was like now.
Mhm.
But then after creating this account and like realizing that, wow, there actually are a bunch of great people just across, you know, you don't just have to be limited to everybody, you know, that's in your
Mhm.
direct vicinity,
Yeah.
I guess. But yeah, it's so yeah, I think just the big community that's created and then just kind of learning about everybody and realizing that a lot of radio people are like super shy to like talk to each other. That's
Yeah.
why lots of times I'm kind of like, hey, tell people when you're inspired by them because you know
Mhm.
totally makes their day. I think some people are like, oh my gosh, that person's in a big market. They're like
Yeah.
popular. I can't talk to them. But like, you'd be surprised. Like you know, I've done it. I've been scared and I'll reach out and, you know, usually people are like, oh my gosh, that's so great. You know, if you
Mhm.
just tell them like,
Yeah.
hey, I think you're awesome. And then they like know who you are. And that's already like a
Mhm.
networking connection that you made. You know, you don't want to
Yeah.
be like, some people just reach out when they need a job, you know,
Mhm.
like, so you can kind of like, you just kind of make that connection to your friend and
Yeah.
they're like, oh yeah, I know that person. So yeah, I think
Mhm.
probably the community, the radio family that we've really
Yeah.
created is my favorite now.
Mhm. Yeah. That's good. I like that.
Yeah.
What is the Radio Fam podcast about? Do you want to share that?
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. It is about, well, it's funny because it was a YouTube channel, I guess a YouTube series, a YouTube show. I don't really know what to
Mhm.
call it. YouTube content first.
Mhm.
Basically, so how it started though first was that I was seeing these people online, you know, like the
Mhm.
Chris Cruzes, the Sean Tempestas, people
Yeah.
doing these things. And I wanted to find out more about them and like these cool things that they were doing.
Mhm.
And I thought that it needed to be shared with other people, other radio
Yeah.
people. And I was like, well, I am not like a radio host. I'm not like a show host. And, you know, I don't do
Mhm.
any on camera. I'm a behind the scenes person, but
Yeah.
I'm like, but I can't wait for other radio people to like do this for me, and what if they don't ask
Mhm.
the right questions? Like I want to know and I want to know these people. So
Mhm.
I was like, well, I guess I'll just do it. I'll start just interviewing some people, and then I'll have a video to put out, and I can put that on YouTube and we can share it around. And as I was doing that, I was like remembering, well, not everybody likes to consume their content in video. A lot of people like to just listen to podcasts. So I was like, well, I guess, it's so great to cover content anywhere, you probably covered that with Chris Cruz. Content everywhere. So I was like, well, let's just rip the audio off the YouTube video. So I basically, I edit the video down. Once that's done, I pull the audio off, and then I put an intro onto it. And then I just send it to one of my friends who kind of like produces my podcast for me, or just like puts it together and sends it to where it needs to go. And so basically, so that's how it became a podcast. So what that is about is really just me picking the brains of radio people, and the ones that I go after in particular are people that I've noticed that are doing something different, or that are very out there in social media, so it's again, so Chris Cruz, because he's just content, he's everywhere, I had this girl McCall Taylor, she was doing like a video podcast too, and it was like a quit your damn job, like motivational podcast. Sean Tempesta, obviously, with the video stuff. That girl that I told you, the one out of Seattle based, Cube 93, is because I saw her, she's growing her TikTok, like specifically see her doing that. So I want to interview people that are doing those things, that are a little bit, that they're part of radio, they're still in that content world, but it's not the radio industry specifically, because I want other people to get inspired by these people and see that they can do stuff outside of the radio station, still be a content creator, still be a influencer, still be around music. I mean, still do all the stuff you want to do. You just don't have to be tied to a radio station. So yeah, I guess the theme is really to inspire people to not be tied down by their radio station or their radio company.
That's good. Like that. Let's jump into some of the questions I asked some people. So the first one is from Jordan, and he asked, what's your favorite thing about radio? I think we got into that a little bit. What's your favorite thing about running the Radio Fam account?
I'd say, kind of a lot of the stuff that I said earlier. I'd say the biggest thing for me is control. Not that I'm a big control freak or anything, but I found that like I am, passionate about, like I said, I didn't like the radio station telling me what to do with the Instagram, and it's what, like, social media and radio marketing is an area where I have learned that I am good at, and I'm discovering that I'm, and I'm allowing myself to be confident in it. So it's not even at a point right now where it's like, oh yeah, the Radio Fam makes me this money and I can just, I have a full-time job, I use my full-time job to fund the Radio Fam. But it's the control, even from down to like controlling being able to create the t-shirts, or like some of, like I've created these like little on-air buttons, or just little things like that I can come up with fun ideas, and like they're like cool products that like I would like, and like so it's like not just being able to control the social media and the whole thing, but like down to the products and where I how I gift wrap something, or just like I did a pop-up with Women on Air, and that was just like a random, like, let's see if we can do a pop-up together. Okay. And or be collaborating with other radio people. I love that too. Using like their product, like again, like how I share Chris Cruz's like video series, that's perfect, because like I don't know everything, so I rely on other people's talents to then put them all in one place, that way other people can just find them all easily. So I think the control, and the fact that it's radio, so I can control it, it's marketing and it's radio, so it's all the stuff I love.
That's good. And then I have a question from Blake from Yummy Hits Radio.
Oh yeah.
So first of all, he said that he didn't know a lot about the Radio Fam, but he said he would love to know how it got started, as well what was the idea when you started the Radio Fam. So
I think we covered the how, from the radio station, how it got started. I could say the beginning of it, I guess if we kind of boil it back, it actually wasn't called the Radio Fam at first. It was actually called Radio in the Streets. And since I'm like a radio, marketing person, I was just like, well, my expertise is promotions in the streets. So let's start highlighting, radio stations that are doing things in the streets, promotions people, and all that. But like there wasn't a ton of promotions radio people on there, and it wasn't as easy to find them. Instagram is just the way you search it, wasn't as easy to find them. And they're behind the scenes people too, not a lot of them are just like putting their faces out there and all this stuff. So I was radio in the streets for about 8 months or so. And then one day I don't know why, I was just like, having more ideas coming. How can I grow this more? How can I grow it more? And then I thought, well, I should really tap into like the radio DJs, because they have egos, and they're going to love being shared, and like, I put their picture somewhere or whatever, but it was a small account at first. I wasn't sure, like at first they're not going to care. They're just going to ignore it, but I'm just going to keep doing it. You know what I mean? So I just kept sharing their pictures, tagging them, and I would like alter them to make them like even brighter and more vibrant, and like, and eventually like it started to work. It's exactly it. People on the radio loved it, because they were getting their faces out there. They were so they started sharing more stuff on their accounts. And then like what really like I think bumped it up was when Instagram introduced stories, because people I think really like that, like behind the scenes, what was going on, like how people, what they're doing at their radio stations. And so I had to like train people to start using stories and tagging me in them. So what I used to do, people would just put up videos. And they weren't tagging me yet. So I used to screen record videos of people, crop them down, share them in my story, and then tag the person. And then they were like, oh, and then they would reshare it in their story. So I had to keep doing that. It was like such a process. And finally, as I kept doing it, people then started to realize and started tagging me themselves in their stories. And the stories, I think, was really what grew the account quickly. And actually, it's so funny. There's a random story. As it was growing, one time there was this guy in Canada, and he made an observation that all the radio station carpets, most of them all look the same. So he posted that in my story, and it went viral. Like within like our radio people, there was so many people all over the world even sharing their radio carpets and being like, oh my God, we have the same one. Or like other people that like didn't have one, like, oh, ours is different. But like, I could not believe how many people were sharing their radio carpet. So it became the radio carpet challenge. And I think I have footage of it somewhere, and I want to like dig it up again. But that like really kicked that really kicked my account into gear, because people like wanted to be a part of it. So like it grew like really fast, like after this like radio carpet challenge, and then there's been like other things that have happened, like I featured Bobby Bones last year in Meet the Fam, and I got like a bunch of followers after that. So
wow, that's awesome.
So yeah, it just kind of evolved from a in the streets thing to a whole radio fan, but I'm so glad it did, because it's so much better just including everybody.
Yeah, it is. I like that. And then the last question that I have is from Hannah B. And she asked, what inspired you to create the brand, the Radio Fam?
What inspired it? I think the inspiration was probably, I think it just probably the starting, because it's like, I didn't wake up one day and say like, hey, I'm going to start this big network, I'm going to start this company or whatever. But I think what kind of really just pushed that was the like, I just wanted to do something with social media, like especially Instagram. Like once it came out, like I just know like I had a knack for it, and like I needed something. I needed to create something, So like I originally been starting, I said I had a few ideas, but I like there's people that go around, I don't know if they do it in your area, but they paint rocks and then they leave them around, and you can go like tag them on Instagram and stuff like that. I learned about that super early on, before a lot of people were doing it, because people were doing it back like where I'm from. And so I came to Colorado, and I created like the very first like Denver rocks, Colorado rocks, like Facebook pages and groups and all that. And I painted the rocks and everything, and I got it all ready, literally got it all set up. And then I was like, I don't want to do that. So that's why like I tell people that it's really, when you want to like create something, to be passionate about what you're doing, because you're just like not going to be, so I think in my head, I was too busy trying to like create a thing rather than like, what am I passionate about? So it's like, I don't really know the exact like day or like why like it clicked then. Cause I had an account that was like it was a meme account that was all Rihanna themed memes. Like I had a painted shoes account. Like I used to paint like shoes. So I had like a painted shoes account, like, but nothing just was like, but for some reason the radio one just clicked. And I think it was, just because of that. So I think it's just the passion for radio and the desire to create something through Instagram is really what like was like the seed that planted the flower, and then now it's like crazy.
Yeah. It's good. And then last and important one is, where can everyone follow you and check you out?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
And I'm so bad. I always forget to ask this or to tell people to do this on my podcast. I always forget to be like, introduce yourself. I just go right into it, right out of it. You can find me and everything about the Radio Fam at theradiofam.com. And that's where you're able to follow all the social media. We're at the Radio Fam across all social media. It's like Pinterest, YouTube, all those places. The podcast can be found on there too. The podcast is on any platform that you listen to your podcast on.
Yeah.
And so check it out. There's blogs in there. There's shopping. So for Christmas shopping, I agree with really great, awesome radio stuff I'm super excited about. So check it out.
Yeah, it's good.
Oh, and you can follow my personal Instagram thing. Like it's like my sort of personal one. Marie.radiofam is my Instagram. Or
That'll be all linked in the description. So yeah. Hey. Okay.